Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the stream. We are sitting here with Mavius 6 and we're doing something new. We are going to try to start doing this random podcast when we have time, I guess. Talking about random things. We talk about martial arts, we'll talk about jiu-jitsu, we'll talk about kickboxing, we'll talk about grappling, MMA, the world today as we know it, including, I guess more lifestyle issues as well, balancing time, work, family, life, fatherhood, all of the things that
All the
we all
things.
we all deal with every day. So I am sitting here with maybe a six. I am your gaming potato. What's happening, everybody? First things first, since this is our first time that we're actually doing this, let's talk a little bit ourselves. Maybe if you go first. Who are you? Why are we doing this?
Well, why are we doing this? Well, I am starting a to teach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yes.
And the key behind that is I actually do not have a huge amount of rank or experience in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Uh, Most of my experience is in traditional jujitsu. I've been doing traditional jujitsu about 27 years now. Um, and then I've done somewhere in a range of like 3 to 4 years of Brazilian, but never consistent. Class here, class there.
Mhm.
Um, I've done judo. I've done, the whole MMA thing, Muay Thai, kickboxing, boxing, all that. Um, but this class is a unaffiliated Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class that they brought me in for, and I know the techniques, or at least maybe not to the level that a purple belt, brown belt, black belt in Brazilian's gonna know. Um, but I do know the techniques. But I want to come up with a plan, come up with an idea of how I want to teach this.
Mhm. Mhm. And I think that's where I'm coming in, right? So
Correct.
I I have studied Brazilian Jiu Jitsu off and on probably the last 12 years or so, maybe a little bit less. I think I started in 2000, probably about 2011, 2012.
Okay.
But I did the straight, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. I Before that, I was a kickboxer. I have a black belt in taekwondo. And I always thought that I could take care of myself. While if I ever needed the things, and it was weird because I started taekwondo when I was a kid, and I started really really young. My Xbox is going off. If y'all are hearing that, I started really young because I was getting picked on. Our school, me and Mavius, coincidentally, actually kind of grew up together. We went to high school together. We grew apart, came back together. It's all the things. So at our school, I mean, I was one of the very few kids that was not white, and I was a very small kid, and uh, I was
He's
picked
still
on.
really small.
Also true. Uh, but I was always picked on. At least I was always picked on in the beginning of the year. Once it finally got to that point where it I said enough is enough and took care of my business, I wasn't picked on for the rest of the year until the next year, and then it was like everybody forgot that I could fight. And so back then, you didn't really have grappling. You
No.
know, you if you went to the ground, the fight was over. Um, Whether you were knocked down, pushed, tripped, whatever, like you never actually follow to the ground. And so, um, when the first time it happened to me, it was outside of school. It was in a situation that I put myself in, and I'm wrestling a guy that's 60, 70 pounds heavier than I was.
Hmm.
Um, without any of my friends around for a good 30, 45 seconds. Uh, I realized that my 20 plus years of martial arts at that time went out the window as soon as we hit the ground. So that's why I started Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and that's why I started going into grappling, because I didn't want that to happen again. I mean, we was safe, nobody got hurt, nobody went to the hospital. I didn't get hurt per se, but it scarred me, really, like, psychologically scarred me, because
For sure.
I was basically lied to for 20 years, thinking that kicking and punching was enough to save my life, and it wasn't at that point. Um, so I studied off and on. I think more off than on at the beginning of my career, because it was so hard for me to understand Brazilian Jiu Jitsu because of the kickboxing and taekwondo background. It was just completely opposite until it clicked and I realized it wasn't.
Right.
you know?
And I've seen the same thing with, you know, uh, I've taken, I've dabbled in a lot of different martial arts, a lot of different instructors.
Mhm.
And when you get it, that it really is all the same, it makes learning these things so much easier. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
that's the thing. Like the times I have gone to, um, gotten into Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and really, got my cardio back up a little bit and, cleaned up my technique, brushed off all the cobwebs. While I'm technically a white belt, I can beat every single blue belt in there, and even some of the purple belts. And I challenged the brown belts.
Yeah.
They beat me, and that's something you got to realize about Brazilian jiu-jitsu is that there is a much larger gap in skill level from a white belt to a black belt than there is in probably any other martial art. And that's
Yeah.
for two major reasons. One, they are sticklers for time, for the amount of time. In a lot of traditional, you can get, if you really commit, you can get a black belt in about 5 years.
Yeah.
Even
I
if
mean,
they're,
even
even if they're not a McDojo, just like in
yeah.
general, that's
Yeah.
about how long it takes.
Right.
Now, you also are continuing to climb those, and learn more, learn more, learn more. But in Brazilian, what, if you're skilled and you really bust your butt, maybe 8 years, maybe
10.
10, 10,
10.
yeah. And also the difference is the application. In most martial arts classes, you're doing light application drilling. I grab you here, we do this. I'm not putting any real pressure on you, you're not putting any real resistance.
Right.
And in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, from day one, you're grappling, you're in there. And you
Yeah.
do it every single class, short of an injury. And so you get used to it.
Yeah. I mean, it really is trial by fire. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you are forged by the people that are around you, whether they're white belts or black belts. Like, it really makes a huge difference. And it's kind of a weird concept. Like, so I just earned my brown belt in jujitsu last September, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So through Red River. I'm going to shout out them. Red River Brazilian Jiu Jitsu out in Wichita Falls, Texas. I trained with them for about 5 years, 4 years. And I started there as a no stripe blue belt. Like, that was probably the biggest break I had in my training, was the 3 years before coming there. And then, getting there, just knocking off the rust. They, in the first few months, they gave me one stripe on my blue belt, and I'm like, this is dumb. Like, I haven't done this in 3 years. I don't deserve this stripe at all. And
Yeah.
honestly, it feels weird, because with each promotion we got, most times gyms promote together. So as long as you're there consistently, the people around you are consistently, you're all going up at the
Going up.
same time, you
Mm-hmm.
know? So you don't really stagger skill levels very much. And honestly, you don't if you're consistent with a group of people. Um, you all get better together, you all learn together, you all compete together. And so you don't really understand where your skill level is at until you go to another gym or you go to another
Mm-hmm.
school or you go to a tournament and you fight somebody completely new and you're like, "Oh, wow, I did much better than I would have a year ago, from not going to this gym." So
Right.
it was a very interesting uh thing to I mean, they promoted me twice while I was there from blue to
Good,
purple,
good.
and then from purple, that was right before the pandemic. Uh, and so the a year of my purple belt was doing garage dojos. So
Yep, yep.
and it was kind of cool and kind of weird at the same time because our gym basically split up into random uh, factions. We had a couple of groups of guys in here. I had a couple of group of guys in my garage. And but we all still stayed consistent together. So
Right.
when we came back
That's good.
together, it was like we never shut down. And
Yeah,
and
the pandemic kind of I finally had decided that I was going to consistently work on my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I signed up with a really good gym. I
Mhm.
went there for maybe 2 months, real consistent, busted my butt, and then the pandemic hits.
Yeah, that was hard.
And they want, I mean, and one thing you got to understand, at least with me, is that like I took it very seriously, and they wanted everybody back in ASAP,
Right.
you know. And I understand business, but I had my family to think about, so I mean, I paid for that whole year,
Yeah.
but I didn't. But I did not go to any classes, and it kind of demoralized me. But now I'm going to be teaching, and so here's the thing. I feel I have a very good handle on my skill level compared to where where others are.
Right.
And I thoroughly believe I am probably I should be a high level blue belt at least. And
Fair.
the reasoning behind that is I do have I probably know as many techniques at least as any blue belt well into the purple belt. Where I run into the issues is remembering the stringing techniques together,
Hmm.
um and just the cobwebs,
Yeah.
like I remember what I got to do, but it's like, oh, I forgot with this arm bar you really need to tuck that that knee against the shoulder
Hmm.
to immobilize it, little things like that. They're gone. Well, they're not gone. They're just not at the top of my head. They're not habit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the
That's
only reason I wouldn't start putting myself into that lower purple belt level is I don't have that right now.
right.
Now,
And that's
like I said, I do not have that rank.
yeah.
That's just where I feel I'm at.
Yes. So now it brings back full circle of where we're here. So my job, while we do these kind of podcasts, is to make sure that uh, you understand what you're teaching. If you have any questions, different positions, transitions, different techniques, I can try to explain it as much as I can, and more so conceptually
Right.
and uh, more, I guess, theoretically on why a person would move a certain way or do something a certain way. And hopefully that helps you with the classes that you're teaching. And it'll
Yeah.
help me because I'm floating right now. I'm kind of between gyms. We just moved to another city. I've tested out a couple of gyms, and honestly, the class that I've done twice. That's the most I've done since we've moved. Is just like you. He doesn't hold rank. He doesn't hold, uh, he doesn't hold an actual belt, but he is really good. He has the experience, but he's never sat in a gym long enough for somebody to tie a belt around his
Yeah,
waist.
and there,
So
and on one hand, I understand as that instructor, not many instructors have not promoted me
right,
when they probably could have, and it would have been reasonable.
right.
But I
You just
haven't been able to commit,
mhm.
and it
and
is
that's
what it is.
and that's the hard thing. Like with instructors looking at promoting certain students, looking at promoting certain people, um, the time under them is a really big deal. More so in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu than any other art that I've been involved in. Mainly because they the world of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu is very small still. Like you have
It's getting there.
compared to like WTF, Taekwondo, Judo, where it is, it's an international sport now, but the players are still small to where the main black belts, the masters, the grand champions of IBJJF are known by name,
Right.
and
Yeah.
you get like Craig Jones, or you throw out those kind of names, people know them because they're just it's such a small world. They're still celebrity like black belts. Where in Taekwondo, past June Ree, Pat Burleson, who else is going to know? Chuck Norris because he's a movie
Yeah.
star, but they're known by other people and by other people in the art because of what they've done outside the art. With jujitsu, these celebrity black belts are celebrities because
Oh, only
they
in the
are
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world.
right,
Really? Yeah.
right.
Like
Like
people have heard of Chuck Norris.
right,
And there are people even outside of martial arts who've heard of Pat Burleson.
right,
Obviously Bruce Lee,
yeah.
you know?
But I throw out the name Craig Jones to anybody that doesn't understand Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and they're gonna look at me funny. If
Mhm.
you look at any of the other black belts, it's I mean like Dean Lister. Maybe people will know him from UFC,
Yeah.
but they don't know him for the leg locking champion that he is for his Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. As in, if I go to school or to a gym and say, "Yeah, I trained under Dean Lister," people are gonna freak. So,
Yeah, right.
um, with the guy that I'm training with, or training under now, I guess, he has solid techniques. There's nothing that I wouldn't throw in my game because it's not going to work, or it's not something that would be out of the ordinary. Whereas
Right.
if you go to like a fake school, or someone, I mean, granted, I'm taking your teaching situation into a completely different scenario. Say a guy that doesn't understand or doesn't have a reason or a concept of self-defense or Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and then just
Right.
opens up a school and just teaches all this crap. Like the Detroit urban survival technician. Have you seen that guy?
No, I don't think I have.
I will
You
send
have
it
to
to you.
send that to me later. I will
It's
I might know exactly who you're talking about, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing that he's taking people's money to teach them complete crap. You know,
Yeah.
so we're going to keep you away from the dust situation.
So, okay, so this kind of is a good segue, I suppose, into I would say rough plans for this class.
Okay.
So, and to you, to the viewers of this podcast, this is not meant to be like hating on Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world. I just
No.
want to do it my way. And
Yeah.
I see things that I personally disagree with in every Brazilian Jiu Jitsu gym I've ever been to that I want to do differently in my class. And one of my things, and again, not hating, it creates great Brazilian Jiu Jitsu competitors. But one thing I have noticed is from day one, I already mentioned it, everybody is trained to destroy. Get in there and grapple as hard as you can. And if you catch that armbar, great. And 99% of the time, that armbar I saw you catch, yeah, you caught it, but it was crap.
Yeah.
And now, don't get me wrong, winning a fight is winning a fight. But I would prefer to hammer technique before winning.
So are you seeing that in the class that you have now?
No, well,
Or
okay.
is this
So
a concept of you going through different gyms and that's
the
what you're
well,
seeing?
yeah, like that's what I'm already seeing it in my new students,
Hmm.
and I'm already trying to pull away from that. But yeah, every single class I've ever been to, every the white belts and on up, they're going as hard as humanly possible and not focusing on that technique. And the black belt, brown belt, purple belt, whoever's teaching the class watches this and just lets it go. And that's fine. I'm not hating on that. I'm
Yeah.
not, but I don't want to do that. I personally, in the middle of your training match, I'm going to stop you
Hmm.
when you're applying that crappy straight arm bar and showing you the right way. Because
Yeah.
yeah, maybe your opponent will be annoyed because he's like, well, I was going to get out of that, and then I could have won the match. And it's like, who cares? This isn't a
Yeah.
competition.
Yeah.
And and that's me coming back from my traditional background is we're teaching more technique than competitive. It's more
Right.
about getting better than winning.
Yeah.
And
I
that's
can
personal opinion.
Yeah, and I can see exactly where you're coming from because that was always kind of a big frustration too because I gym hopped a lot in my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu career, especially when I was a white belt, blue belt. Uh Mainly because I had to move for work, so I
Right.
had to try different places and different gyms just to kind of see if I can get the right vibe, I guess. If the right vibe was there, I would stay and do more classes, but if it's not, then it was rough. So I remember a time where I was a blue belt. I was in San Diego, trying to find a new gym and a new school, and I won't mention the gym's name, but we go and the brown belts are teaching it, which is great. They were great, but they were like D1 wrestlers. Uh, and
Mhm.
so when it comes to wrestling, when you're wrestling for high school, college, you know, uh, they there is no remorse. They know 100% and off. There's no in between, and uh, it's 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 almost a little frustrating to grapple somebody who is a wrestler, especially when, like me, having no wrestling experience whatsoever. Uh, I don't have that kind of like kill mentality.
Right.
But you get people in the higher levels that are teaching that kill mentality, and you kind of get that vibe. You know,
Right.
I I remember uh, rolling with one of their two stripe white belts, and he was very frustrated because I was able to shut him down almost anything that he threw at. To the point to where after our round was up, he gets up, cusses me out, and walks out the back door.
Ooh.
Nobody stops him. Nobody stops him. And so I I understand. I understand where you're coming from because a lot of schools don't not only doesn't discourage that, they actually do encourage that kind of mentality.
Exactly. And,
But
and this is my theory around that is the people who teach are the people who are the hardcore competitors who live, breathe
mhm,
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and all they know is competition. And they want
right,
to open a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school and live, breathe it. And that's where their income comes from and
right,
everything. And that's all they know
yeah,
is to be the best competitor possible.
right. And that I and that's a weird thing, like most instructors, most professors, you're right. This is all they do. They don't have another job. This is their full time gig.
Like,
So they
yeah.
live and breathe in a gi. And it's
While in a,
very
oh, go ahead.
yeah, it's very I don't know. It's very weird for somebody like me where I have a full time job. I got family. We got
Mm-hmm.
that's where the balancing is, and we'll talk about that on another time because we could probably go on
Sure.
another 30 minutes about that. But
Well,
um, when it comes to your situation, though, like why am I on focus? There you go. When it comes to your situation, uh, I can see that as a very new grappler. That stuff does go away. And that kind of mentality at some point, even the D1 wrestlers, they may be harsh, but they do scale it back the more experience they get. Uh, and it's mainly, we call them spazzy white belts. Because
yeah.
when you're a white belt, all you're trying to do is survive. So you're gonna
Sure.
spaz when you freak out, when you just can't move, you can't do anything. It's very psychologically like damaging.
Yes.
And
I,
and
I could
so
agree with that. Yeah.
once they realize and they learn the techniques to get them out of those terrible spots, the the anxiousness starts to come down a bit. They start to be more calm. They start to learn how to breathe. But it takes a long time for that. And yeah, it does. It takes a higher belt to say, look, you're spazzing out, calm down, because they don't know any better. They only know
Well,
spaz.
see, here's where I'm coming from with that. Is like I take a look at a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu blue belt
Hmm.
who's been doing it for on average what somewhere in between 1 and 3 years, probably maybe even a little more.
Yeah,
Um,
roughly.
and used and the spaz is strong in blue
Yeah.
belt.
Oh, yeah. No, that doesn't really go
But you
away.
turn around and you look at something that's very comparable, I think, of judo
Mhm.
and that same, and they do a lot of the same. They're very focused on competition,
Right.
but and my mind is blanking out on me. I think they go. I want to say it goes white belt, like yellow belt, and then it jumps up to something else. But it's very similar. It doesn't have as many belts as a lot of others. And that same 1 to 3 or 4 years, that they don't have that spaz.
Yeah.
But they don't train destroy. They train technique first.
Right.
If you are doing a crappy throw, they're gonna stop you.
I think that's where the difference is, though. It's that in jujitsu, you're you're rolling, you're fighting first weekend, you know.
Judo does the same thing though.
But
You'll
I
throw from the first day
so,
and grapple.
but I mean, like not just technique wise, like you're throwing and drilling. I'm not talking about the drilling. I'm talking about live rolls.
They do that too.
They immediately, you walk
Mm-hmm.
into a class. I mean, like in our gym, you're given the choice. You can try it your first day and get your butt whooped, or sit out and watch until about a week, and then you don't get a choice anymore. You're going in.
Sure.
And so, with a week's worth of technique, you're trying to go against a brown belt. whose only job is to destroy you and your ego. you know?
I tell
Oh,
you, I have destroyed many a purple and brown belt's egos
yeah.
because they see me as lowly white belt,
Hmm.
and it's like, well, I'm not a white belt, and you're still gonna probably beat me,
Right.
but I am gonna make you work.
Yes.
And in
So,
fact, I would say purple belts can't submit me, but I can't submit them either.
right.
Brown belts is about the level most people need to be at before they can force a submission on me at will.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's a very delicate thing, especially for you that are, that's expected to teach these things.
Hmm.
How do you how do you balance that level of aggression slash spaz compared to technique? And because
Right.
that white belt, you're not really expected to
No.
understand that concept. It's not really until you get into your fourth stripe as your white belt, getting into blue belt, where you start to really understand, like, okay, spazzing is bad. What do I need to do to fix that? And your brown, or you mentioned that you have a blue belt there that's still in that kind of spazzy level. Well, I mean,
Hmm.
he's expected to be. Yeah, he's
Well, but see, here's the thing that kind of got me on that is I actually thought that he was a white belt. Like I thought that this was like his second class ever.
yeah,
That I thought maybe he had some wrestling background because he definitely did understand the concepts of it,
right.
but his like he couldn't apply a Kimura correctly. He couldn't. Yeah, I mean even in drill.
How new of a
Uh,
blue belt was he though?
how new of a blue
Yeah,
belt? He
yeah.
I can't remember what he had said.
Uh,
But
because
he'd been
that,
at it for a while,
yeah,
enough that he should be able to
right.
apply, the basic techniques
Yeah.
relatively well. Like, especially, it's one thing to not be able to apply it perfectly in a roll, but
Right.
not being able to apply it perfectly in a static, okay, do this, do this, do this, and tap. You
Right.
know,
Right.
not being able to do it in a drill. And
I
that's
mean,
where I'm a little concerned that
yeah.
somebody who has a year or two's worth of experience should be able to take any of the basic moves and at least in a drilling perspective apply it, maybe not textbook perfect, but efficiently. Like
Yeah.
they know
I
most of the nuances.
Yeah. And honestly, I mean, the way you're describing him, the way you're describing expectations, I feel like they might be a little high still
They
for the
might.
level of students that you have. I mean, blue belt, yeah, that just means he's been in it for a while. Because
Sure.
a white belt, here's where I feel like the rankings for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu are. White belt means you walked in the front door. You are higher than the dude that's sitting on the couch. But your ideas of jujitsu is literally survival. You
Right.
work on defense and you get crushed, and you're cannon fodder for the upper belts. At blue belt, you're starting to understand that you're cannon fodder, but you can shut down the guy that came in and is working the exact same drill with you because you know the reversals, you know the counters, you know transitions, you understand different positions statically. You may not understand how they can be combined, the transitions. You don't maybe understand combinations of like going between an armbar or a triangle into omoplata, kimura kind of situation, but you understand those techniques separately enough.
Hmm.
Like you recognize things more than what you would have as a white belt. I think that's where you would get the blue, but you are very new still. And
Right.
usually most gyms, a white belt stays a white belt for about a year. Um, two if you're not really getting it. Like I took 2 years. I'm not afraid to admit that because I sucked.
It was like 4.
Probably. Um,
And
I mean, but it's
I
probably
say that as
yeah.
I have no actual rank
I
in
mean,
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as I screw with them about it.
yeah, honestly, it probably should have been four. Like I would have felt a little bit more comfortable getting my blue belt at that point. But uh, when I was a blue, I felt like I knew stuff, but I knew nothing. And I think that's where this guy feels right now. Like he knows a little bit, but he truly knows nothing.
Sure.
And so, his expectation to be able to do a Kimura probably should not be as high as you think it'd be. Now, it should be higher compared to everybody else who has never done one before. Yes, I completely agree with that. But uh, I that's kind of the idea of where you're at. I mean, how many classes have you done of this? One. Yeah. So really, the first day, I probably should have had no expectation at all. Just started
Well,
everybody
no,
off.
and that's the thing. Like, I didn't even know. So this is an existing class that somebody with even less experience than me was running based on
Mm,
a curriculum from, I believe, a black belt in another city about an hour and a half away,
yeah.
and they wanted help.
Yeah.
So here I am to take over.
Right.
And so I didn't even know what students I was getting, what
Yeah.
level they were, what level of experience they were.
Yeah.
And, and so I had no expectations. In fact, that was the first thing I did after warm up. Normally, I would not start a class with rolling, you
Right.
know, but I was like, okay, what I want you guys to do, we're going to do about 10 minutes of rolling light. Like, you know, you're not trying to beat these guys. You're
Yeah.
just trying to move, and I wanted to see
E-
what could they
even
do.
even that is actually a pretty high level expectation. Like there's no rolling light. I feel like if you say you roll light, uh, you
Oh,
you're
but
choking.
and that's the thing. I
Like
was jumping straight in and going, no, no,
yeah,
no, no, slow it
yeah,
down.
yeah. But like
Take it lighter. I don't need you guys to kill each other.
right.
I don't need you guys to win. I don't care who wins. I want
Hmm.
to see, so I can immediately, from that first technique I'm starting to teach,
Right.
know, like, if nobody has a clue what they're doing
Right.
whatsoever,
Hmm.
what's the point in talking nuance about a technique? But if you have people who are completely clueless and people who are a little bit more experienced, I start throwing in that nuance stuff that a more experienced guy can hopefully start picking that up and using it. The clueless guy over here who's brand new, yeah, it's not going to do him any good probably. Maybe
Maybe.
if he's the kind of person that soaks up knowledge, great.
Right. Yeah.
And I hope for those people because I love, love, love martial arts theory.
Right.
I don't really care. Like when you sit here and you're talking taekwondo, you're talking judo, you're talking traditional jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I don't care what your technique is to get out of a armbar, to get out
Right.
of I want to know why that's your technique.
Yeah.
Why do you think circling to the outside is the right way to do it? What's the theory behind? I love it. I love it. And
Right.
I will spout that stuff. I'll throw tidbits of that in there the entire time they're rolling, the entire time
Hmm.
they're drilling, when I'm teaching the technique, when they're asking questions. I try not to overload it. Sometimes I fail at
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. We all do. We all do. Trust me.
I've been
I
talking for 20 minutes on this technique that should have taken one, but
yeah. That was always the hardest thing. I got to teach a couple classes at Red River, and that was the hardest thing for me was to stop talking
Mhm.
because explaining a technique, but then explaining the little intricacies that you don't pick up until you've done it a million times. Uh,
I've done that in my classes that I've taught in the past,
yeah,
and it's like, oh.
Yeah. So
I just talked for the half the class
yeah. So
on one technique.
when I was teaching, I would have one student be like, "Let's go." Like he would cut me off
Yeah,
mid sentence, and I had to designate like, "You're going to be the guy where if I'm rambling, you stop me." He goes, "Yes, sir," and that's how we did it. So,
fair
uh,
enough. And
you know,
and if I start getting too bad at it, so far, I mean,
yeah,
only one class. So
right,
far, it hasn't been too bad. I've done a lot more teaching since then, and I've been trying to rein that in.
yeah. So what did you teach your first class?
Okay, so um, I was teaching. Let's see, I probably taught four things,
Okay,
mainly. Because right now I'm not really thinking anybody's ready for any real drill.
right,
No
right,
transitions too much. One move done.
yeah,
So we were first working on proper side mount position,
okay,
transitioning, simple transition from side mount into mount.
hmm,
And since I was teaching side mount, I figured let's work on a bent arm bar in there.
okay,
Why not?
yeah.
Because it works in the mount and it works in the side mount. So I had them work it from both.
So
And
more like Americana or Kimura?
Americana.
Americana. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So
And then more to throw in a little bit of tidbit of more slightly more advanced and one of my more favorite techniques of a head and arm bar
okay,
from if you know what I'm talking about.
think so.
Um,
So
yeah,
so I guess the one question you shot at me before, I guess we can talk about it now because we're already about
sure.
40 minutes into it. Uh,
Yeah,
is the neon belly concept.
yeah. Before you start, like my question to you
Yeah.
was, you know, don't get me wrong, I understand Neon Belly. I can apply it rather well, but I see it as kind of pointless and just there to annoy because you know, I can't directly do anything with it. So I get to that neon belt, and I'm not talking about a transition into from into mount, using neon belly. I'm talking
Right.
holding neon belly.
Yeah.
And I was watching some videos, and like every single one, do this neon belly drill, do this neon belly, neon belly, neon belly. I'm like, what's this obsession? What am I missing about neon belly? Because I don't see it as that big of a deal.
So I can answer this probably in a three-part series. Neon
Base
belly
level.
base level is a transitional position. It is a spot between half guard, or not half guard, between side mount and full mount that you can, we call it cooking. Basically, you can hold a person there and just make their life miserable. It works much better in the gi than it does in no gi.
Mhm.
You
Oh yeah,
can do it
100%.
in no gi as well, which is, you're wearing basically, a tight shirt and shorts for anybody that doesn't understand what no gi is. Wearing the full gi, you're wearing the full uniform. Um, but with neon belly, with the gi, you have certain grips, and honestly, even different variations of the knee, as in like where you put the knee on the body, whether it be in the middle of the
Right.
chest, the
Diaphragm,
diaphragm, up on the
sternum.
chest, sternum. Like I like to put it like right here on the shoulder. A lot of places are honestly like right in the hip area. When I do my knee and belly, because I like to stay low because I'm a small, like, again, I'm a small guy. So, uh, you know, staying low with my
And see,
opponent.
this right here you're talking about perfectly fine. Like I
Yeah.
understand the transitional neon
So
belly.
the thing is also neon belly is a very reactive position. The way you move under my neon belly will determine where I go. So if
Okay.
they try to push the knee off, With anything, they're extending their arms. I can snag an arm and start transitioning to a different arm bar or a different arm lock. If they stay close and stay tight and they're just trying to hold on and just put their hands on my knee to relieve the pressure, that opens the neck area. I can start going for chokes. Um,
Okay, that's
if
fair enough.
they start actually trying to move and shrimp away and trying to turn, whether they turn into me or turn away from me, that opens different positions to where I can either take the back if they're turning away from me. If they turn into me, I can spin on top and still be able to either take the back, go to full mount, go to an S mount where one leg is wrapped under their arm. If they're on their side, the leg goes over. I'm sitting on their ribs or I'm sitting on their hips and I'm hugging them and they're just stuck on their side. It's a very terrible position. And then you kind of go from there because basically it is made to make you move from under me. So if I have somebody in side mount and I think you are glitching out right now. Are
Am
you?
I?
I think on my screen it shows you just blinking really really fast, and it's kind of funny. I'm not touching anything else. All right.
Oh boy.
Okay. Okay. So where was I? um.
They were hooking under the arm.
So yeah. So Neon Belly is made to be a reactive transitional uh spot. You know, you give up a lot
So
defensively under the Neon Belly.
maybe this is exactly why Neon Belly doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Because I tend to be a very reactive, passive type of fighter. You
Right.
know, I try to get you to give something up, and I'd say I'm pretty decent at not overcommitting things. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe I'm just not giving away too much every time I've rolled with somebody who uses it. I just find that, ow, this hurts
Mm-hmm.
until they decide it's pointless and move into something else. And
Depends.
I'm not seeing so I didn't see the point of it because
Right.
because he's transitioning from a side mount to a mount and he used Neon Belly and it's like, and he held it for 30 seconds
Mm-hmm.
and annoyed me, but it didn't really do anything to me. To me, it's like, well, why didn't you just go straight in the mount? You had it.
Right.
But based on what you're saying, if I had tried to shove that off, given them an arm bar
Mm-hmm.
or, rolled or something like that, then it would have been a considerably different story and I would have seen that utility a little bit better.
Yeah. It is very much a reactive for the offensive grappler. You know, defensively, if you can withstand it, you know, just kind of just embrace the suck until they move
Yeah.
on, then yes, you basically shut down the reasoning behind the Neon
Okay.
Belly. You
And that
know,
makes a lot of sense as to why it didn't make any sense to me.
right. And so that's the other thing is that in tournaments, that's actually considered a position to gain points. I want to say it's 2 points for Neon Belly.
Hmm.
So you have to hold positions for 3 seconds uh, in the tournament. So if I go from side mount, or so say we're standing up first, you know, I get a takedown. That's 2 points. I end up in side mount. That's another 4 points, I believe. I go to Neon Belly. That's another 2 points for me. So just holding positions can make you win a tournament. You know,
Okay. That makes sense. That makes a lot of
so
sense.
so a lot of people will drill that the pawns on that Neon Belly just for competitive sake, because you don't want to give up those points that you could have had, whether you're
Okay,
going to
now
full mount anyway.
that's fair enough too.
You know,
Okay.
and so that's why we did it. You know, that's why we were so because if I go from side mount to full mount, I just gave up 2 points that I could have had, whether he would have wanted me or whether I would have gotten it or not. You know, so if I go from side mount, I get my points. I go to Neon Belly and I hold it there, that's another point, you know, another 2 points. And then I go to full mount, that's another 4 points. that he had no control of stopping,
Okay,
And
that
then in
makes
the middle
yeah.
of that, I'm still hunting for my submissions because I want to end the fight, I want to end the match.
Always
So
try
if
to
he
end the
gives
yeah.
up, if he gives up an arm or he gives up his neck while I'm in the neon belly, that's sugar on top of the cake. That's the cherry on top. So that's where the neon belly really, if you start showing or you start teaching it, that's where the concept needs to be from. Is I am forcing my opponent to be more defensive than you wanted to be, and you got to
Okay.
suck that knee and belly in. I mean, you say that you just kind of that you sat there and embraced the suck, then that wasn't a good neon belly, and you got to really drive that knee in and drive your hips up and get that back straight and pull him in like you're trying to start a lawnmower and to just hold it there. And then if you hear that oh sound, that's the only time you ever did really well.
Well, this probably stems into my time doing traditional jujitsu with being the only kid in there with a bunch of adults,
Yeah.
and it was definitely an abusive situation
Yeah. Yeah.
because they put me through the ringer on that. They
Mm-hmm.
did not like, you know, in traditional jujitsu, it's a lot more wrist and
Yeah.
finger locks and shoulder locks and stuff like that, and just a lot of pain.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I probably have a little bit more of the
Higher.
the thick skin to that.
Yeah, higher
Yeah.
pain tolerance to, subs and stuff like that. But again, if you work on technique and you get your students to really
Well,
focus on that technique,
and
then
that actually is something that I am wanting to concentrate on, like preparing for this, is that I'm not teaching them how to grapple like me. Some of them, yes.
right.
Some of them would be more of a defensive, passive grappler, but some of them makes no sense to teach them that way. They're going to be bad at it.
Yeah.
But they can be, but they are. If I teach them to, to attack, 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 that's going to work for them.
Yeah.
And see, that's the problem I've seen with other instructors is that they are attackers and they don't teach defensive. And
Yeah.
so I don't get anything out of it because that's not me. I did the same thing when I did MMA. I've done the same thing when I've done, kickboxing, Muay Thai, everything. I
Yeah.
like to let you screw up.
Right. And that's going to be the hard and difficult thing for you teaching this. And I hope that I can help with a lot of it is
Well,
understanding both sides of the coin, because you
sure.
really have to really be able to give these guys what they really need from this jujitsu gym, especially if
Yeah.
people sign up for all different reasons. People sign up to lose weights. People want the camaraderie. This is like their social occasion that they get out of their house. Okay, cool. But the people that are there to really learn jujitsu can't go anywhere else. You are it. You are their person. You know, uh, you really need to be able to give them the offensive and defensive side. So
Hmm.
when it came to the neon belly, hopefully that made sense to
Well,
where
and that's one of the things that I want to do with this series of stuff discussing with you is getting that perspective
right, yeah,
of different things that don't make sense to me. Not necessarily because I didn't understand, like I don't know how to apply the technique, but more of I didn't understand the reason
hmm
because it doesn't work for me because I don't fight like that.
right. Well,
So
hopefully,
seeing that there's a different, the reason why, maybe I can teach these
maybe
guys a
throw
little
it in there.
better.
Throw it in there next time. Just kind
Yeah.
of let it cook a little bit, and let let your opponent just suffer just for a little bit, just to see what they give up, you know, and
What?
see how they move and what
Sure.
understand. Like, okay, now it's still your reactive way of thinking. You're just now reactively on the offense.
Right.
You know,
Well,
so
one thing I'm excited for in the upcoming classes, once they're ready, they're not ready. They're
yeah.
definitely not ready, is throws.
Shit, I'm not even ready for throws.
That is one thing that I have yet to see, even on a like professional level. I have yet to see a very many people that know how to throw in
It's
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because they don't. They don't teach it. It's not their focus. I
it's not.
while I'm not as good as like a judo black belt or even a judo brown belt, I'm close to that. I would say I'm close to that brown belt level on judo,
Right.
and I enjoy it a lot.
Yeah.
And these guys are going to learn how to throw and how to get thrown. That's the reason they're not ready. Is
That's
you can't learn to throw if you're not getting thrown.
right. And that's I think a lot of, at least from the schools that I've been in, it's very much when it comes to like judo throws, especially in jujitsu, it's very high risk, high reward kind of thing. Whether, the normal wrestling, single leg or double leg takedown, enough. You know, people don't know the throws, they don't know the wrestling. So me,
So
like,
so there's one throw that every single Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gym I've gone to has taught. And I struggle with remembering the name because it's not the right name. It's not an actual judo throw. It's wrong. I
mm-hmm.
believe they call it Ippon Seonagi. It's a shoulder throw that they're trying to
Yep.
drop shoulder throw. It's
Yes.
wrong. It's wrong.
Yeah.
They
I
will half the time, first of all, they go over the shoulder. And second, they drop straight to their knees and they're trying to throw you to go straight into that side mount.
yeah.
The problem is if I know what I'm doing at all as the person getting thrown, or even they just screw up a little bit, you are guaranteed giving up your back
Yes.
every single time.
I actually stopped throwing that throw because that was what was happening. Once they figured out that I could throw it, then they were much more reactive to it. And I just, that's how
You,
my game is going to start. They're just going to start on my back, you know?
you want to know the simplest? It's still not proper, but you want
Uh-huh.
to know the simplest change you can put to that throw to
Oh,
make
give it
it
to me.
1,000 times more effective. For one, control, and two, you're in less danger of putting yourself in a bad position.
Give it to me.
So the way I've seen every Brazilian jiu-jitsu teacher teach this is they will grab, and in the process of throwing, they are dropping to the ground.
Uh-huh.
That is the momentum they are using to throw you.
Right.
And that is the problem. By the time you screw up, you're already have no
Full committed.
base. Yeah, it's already over.
Right.
They're falling regardless, and then they catch themselves, but you're still falling.
Right.
And then they just take your back.
Yeah.
The way you change it is when you go in, you get under those hips, you lift them off the ground, and then when you start to throw, that is when you drop. Once again, I still don't say to drop. Not like that.
Yeah.
But if you're going to do it that way, and it's a slight change, I am lifting you off the ground before I ever start dropping. So
So
now you have
I've basically just started the throw too soon in my
exactly well, and that's the
mechanics.
way Brazilian Jiu Jitsu teaches it is
Yeah.
to the drop is the throw, and it's no, the lift is the throw, the drop is extra momentum.
So yeah,
And
so is that the only reason why you would do the drop then? Because I feel like you could throw from your feet if you're already
now
under hips.
that's the no, that is the right way. I Here's the thing. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu has taken one aspect of Jiu-Jitsu and expanded it and created a sport out of it, and they've done really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
But they pulled it so far away from its roots of war and self-defense and more of a sport.
Mm-hmm.
In Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, essentially can't win unless I go to the ground. In a fight, a real street fight or in war, if I go to the ground, regardless if I put you there, if I go there on purpose or I fall, I probably lost. Because there's other guys in there.
Yeah.
So that I want to stay standing. I'm in a dominant. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu thinks of I'm in a dominant position if, in most cases, I know guard is a dominant position, but if I'm on top,
Mm-hmm.
I'm in dominant. But that's wrong. You're still not dominant. I'm dominant if you're on the ground and I'm standing. And that can still be applied in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I throw, boom, I just put you on the ground. I have that arm. I step over, drop into that straight arm bar. That was one of the first ground techniques I learned in traditional jiu-jitsu is a shoulder throw to a fall back to a straight arm bar.
Yeah.
And
Man.
it's that simple. And we'll do some whole podcasts where it's me talking about stuff that I am experienced in, and I'll, as best I can, doing it in front of a camera by myself. I love throws, and I love the theory around throws. So we'll, as best I can, I will teach you.
Yeah, I think this is going to work because that's probably the weakest part of my game is the throw, the start of the grappling match. Because either I'm going against bigger people, taller people, skinnier people, whatever. More weight, where that throw is essentially going to dictate how the rest of the match is going to go, and I'm the worst at it.
You want to know the simplest thing about it? You are at a huge disadvantage being smaller, not for the reason you think you are. It has zero to do with your weight and your strength. It has more to do with your height. Think of it this way. To do a throw properly, I have to get under your hips.
Right.
Period. That's the first thing I have to do.
Uh-huh.
It will not work. I might be able to knock you off balance and drag you to the ground, which is how most Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu does things.
Yeah.
But what I do, being taller than you, I have to get your hips are here, my hips are here, let's say.
Okay.
I have to get down here under your hips, get you on top, and then I can stand up and bring you up here. I've now taken your feet a foot off the ground.
6 inches off the ground. Don't make me get that much shorter.
I'm that. It probably is more like a little bit. But actually, but the way a throw works, it actually is 1 foot to 2 foot because I'm pulling you.
Okay, yeah,
this way.
I get that.
I got you minimum 1 foot off the ground.
Yeah.
You do it. Here's the problem. Your hips are here. My hips are here. You're already there.
Right.
So you somehow still have to get me on top of you. And there are ways.
Mm-hmm.
There are ways to do that. But it is more difficult. Not because of weight. Because here's the thing. Unless you're going against a 400-pound guy, you can squat any opponent you're going against.
True. Probably
so it's not about picking them up. It's about getting under them.
Okay. We'll talk about that next time because I feel like that would be a whole nother hour.
Yep. I can do 2 or 3 episodes on the basics of throws.
Yeah. And I mean, we've already gone about an hour so far, so
Yep,
I think that'd be a good cliffhanger to end on for next time.
I think that you are correct.
I hope I helped. I
Yeah, no,
even
yeah,
your little bit on that throw with that Ippon, that I'm going to use that next time. And I'll report back and we'll keep making the little corrections that we need.
hmm
Beautiful,
you
beautiful time.
you apply, you try it. If it goes right, great. If it doesn't, tell me what happened. If it feels a little wobbly, tell me what. Tell me, and I can try to take away some of those issues. And I'll do
That's a
the
deal.
same with you.
That is a deal, my friend. That's a deal. Well, Mavius, dude, that was fun.
Yeah,
We
I
talked a
I enjoyed it.
lot. It's just, oh, yeah. Till next time, man. Enjoy. When's the next time you're teaching?
I am teaching on Tuesday.
On Tuesday. So maybe we can set up maybe sometime next week where
Yeah.
we'll push out another one after your class because I want to see the progression,
Mm-hmm.
between the classes, and so we'll figure it out that way.
Yeah.
But cool. Well, good times, Mavius. As always, stay safe, stay healthy. Enjoy your time up there. Enjoy your time teaching, man. That's always been my favorite thing to do. Out
I
of
love teaching.
I can't help. That's kind of half the reason why we're doing this right now. You
Yeah.
know, we're half a quadrillion away from each other, but we'll still be able to teach each other and learn from each other. So I appreciate you, man. Till
Appreciate it.
till next time. Peace out. Much love. Laters.
Later.